Ludicrous feed is proudly sponsored by Carloop Data and Koba Car Insurance. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. Behind me is my white BYD Seal Premium, which I've had here in Sydney, Australia for the last 3.5 months. And I must say, I've really enjoyed having this as my daily drive, going around town, going to work, going to the shops, etc. It's really a fantastic vehicle and I've really enjoyed having it so far. Now with most EVs, there is always an eco mode. And I've always wondered, does putting it on eco mode actually improve the range of the vehicle and improve the efficiency as well? So for this experiment, I'm actually going to be doing a drive from Sydney here to the Blue Mountains and back twice. That's about a 250 kilometer round trip both times. We're doing this because the kids are currently on school holidays and they're going up to the Blue Mountains for a couple of nights for a school holiday camp. So what better opportunity to test out eco mode than doing this experiment? So the first drive there and back will be in normal mode, and then the second drive will be in eco mode 2 days later. Both times I'll try to have the car charged up to 100% before the start of each journey. And for the first drive, there'll be 4 occupants going up to the Blue Mountains and then 2 occupants coming back after we drop the kids off. And then for the second drive, the exact reverse, where my wife and I will be driving up to the Blue Mountains and then coming back home with 4 people in the car. There'll be 2 small suitcases and sleeping bags for the drive up today. And then 2 days later, the exact opposite again, where I'll be driving up with nothing in the boot and then coming back home with the kids' luggage in the back. Now, of course, I can't control every variable. I'll be driving up to the Blue Mountains today at about 4 o'clock this afternoon. But in 2 days' time, I'll be driving up in the morning, so slight difference there. And secondly, most importantly, I can't control the weather, of course. I think it's due to rain this evening. I'm not sure about Sunday. But other than that, I think it should be a good drive. There'll be a mix of city roads, highways, as well as elevation changes too. Okay, so as you can see, the car is charged to 100%, and the odometer is now 2,293 kilometers after 3.5 months. So as you can see here, you can switch between eco, normal, and sport mode by just rolling this dial here. And then it should change the drive mode on this instrument cluster screen here. So up here it says sport because I currently have it on sport, which is what I like to drive it on around the city. I do enjoy the extra acceleration. Now from here, using that dial I showed you earlier, you can roll it up to normal mode or eco mode. So for the drive up to the mountains, I'm going to switch it to normal mode to start with, and then in 2 days' time, we're going to drive it on eco mode. So projected range on normal mode is about 649 kilometers estimated. I think real world we're looking more like 500 kilometers as I've done a previous range test in this car. Okay, so let's reset one of the trip computers, which is this button on the side here of the right stalk. So let's switch now to trip A and trip B. So we might reset trip B, hold on to it. There we go, to 0. So we'll see what the distance is between Sydney and the Blue Mountains and return. And that way we can accurately compare the 2 journeys. And just out of curiosity, you can see that the total mileage of the car, which is 2,293 kilometers, which is the odometer of my vehicle, you can see that the average electricity consumption for the lifetime of this vehicle has been 15.7 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Okay, so we are on the way to the Blue Mountains and we're due to arrive at 6:15 p.m. 1 hour and 49 minutes away, 103 kilometers from this point, and we've driven 15 kilometers so far. I'm not going to use Waze to get us through Sydney traffic. Alright, we'll touch base again when we hit the M4 motorway. Alright, so we are just about to head onto the M4 motorway. It's a different way to view the Waze interface. We've got music and then with the map. Let's head on. Do a bit of freeway driving. Lots of toll roads in Sydney. Let's put on cruise control. So jump up to 80. I've got it on intelligent cruise control as well, so it should lane center. It should be a good test today to see whether it does that. Just watch it. Lane center. And it's beeping because it picked up a 60 kilometer an hour sign somewhere. But it should pick up this LED sign, hopefully. It did, so it's gone up to 90, which is good. Okay. Let's merge. Right. the cruise to 90 there. And then we want to follow the car ahead. So setting 1, so it's pretty close. Right, so I should follow the leading car at a reasonable distance. It's holding pretty steady with the lane centering so far. Alright, we'll touch base as we get to the foot of the mountains before our ascent. Okay, so we've just crossed the Nepean River and we're about to start our ascent up into the Blue Mountains. Just reduce my speed to 90. Still using intelligent cruise control, which has been working pretty well, keeping me in the center of each lane. And I might switch back to just the home screen, and you can see the elevation as we climb. Just reaching twilight to the fading light. You can see the power going up as well. See that? It's 73 kilowatts now, climbing this bit. Just remembering we're on normal mode. I'm also using high regen braking, which doesn't help too much obviously on the freeway. It's more important back in the city. To reduce our speed. Elevation 4 degrees. Gradient, I should say. Just gonna keep my hands on the wheel, even though it's a auto steer. Don't really quite trust it. Auto steer's gone. That's why I always keep my hands on the wheel. Okay, we'll touch base a bit later on. Okay, so we arrived at Katoomba and it's now 12 degrees Celsius there, and we've driven 117.7 kilometers, 73% state of charge. Let's go get dinner. Okay, so the kids have been dropped off and the efficiency, check this out, 25.1 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers for the last 50 kilometers. That's how much energy it requires to climb the mountain. So let's go back down. Okay, so on the way back to Sydney, and before we start our descent, 27 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Let's see what it is when we reach down the bottom of this mountain. Alright, so check this out. We are almost at the bottom of the mountain, about to cross the Nepean River, and the efficiency has dropped right down to under 5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That is what regenerative braking can do in an EV. Amazing, right? Considering where we started at 27 kilowatt hours at the top, now it's down to under 5. Okay, so now we're back on the freeway going at 110, and I think this is as good as we'll get. 4.2 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers for the last 50 kilometers going downhill using regen braking. Okay, we're off the freeway and just working our way through the western suburbs back to our home, and we're going to use the same route essentially when we pick up the kids in 2 days' time to try to control things for this experiment. Alright, on the way back home. Alright, so we're back home and we clocked 232.1 kilometers today, driving from here, Sydney, to Katoomba and back again, and the efficiency has returned back to sort of normal values, 14.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers for the last 50 kilometers. So battery state of charge is now 57%, remembering that we started the journey at 100%, so we used 43% of the battery to clock 232.1 kilometers. So that's on normal mode. Let's see what we can achieve with eco mode in 2 days' time, so stay tuned. Okay, so it's time for part 2 of the experiment, doing the same drive from Sydney to the Blue Mountains and back in eco mode. So there we go, confirming we're in eco mode. Let's now reset that trip computer. Okay, back to 0, so let's get going. And of course confirming we're charged back to 100%. Alright, so we're back on the M4 after navigating through the service roads in Sydney. Let's engage cruise control, so pop that on. 100 kilometers an hour. Alright, and here we shall sit. So we're about an hour away from Katoomba. Alright, so about to make our ascent again. This is part 2 of the journey in eco mode. Now I'll show you the gradient. See how much power the car needs to climb up. Alright, we'll keep going. Okay, so we've arrived in Katoomba, 75% state of charge, 115.4 kilometers driven, and the efficiency so far has been 24 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers for the past 50 kilometers at least. Okay, so we're back home and we've completed the eco part of our test. State of charge is now 61%, remembering that we started the journey at 100% today, and we've driven 226 kilometers, so that is 39% of the battery for 226 kilometers of the journey. Alright, let's compare this eco drive with the first part of the video, which was on normal. Okay, so therefore, in conclusion, in normal mode, I drove from 100% to 57%, therefore 43% of the battery for 232.1 kilometers, making it 5.4 kilometers per 1% of battery used, whereas in eco mode, I got from 100% to 61%, therefore using 39% of the battery for 226 kilometers, making it 5.8 kilometers per 1% of the battery used. So on the face of it, it would seem that eco mode is more efficient than normal mode, therefore justifying most people's hypothesis that eco mode is more efficient when driving an EV. But there were some variables which were not controlled, which we should discuss now. On Friday afternoon in normal mode, we did drive in peak hour traffic, therefore a lot more starting and stopping. There was also slight rain on Friday, which as we know does affect efficiency. The weather was much better on Sunday. Temperature was stable on both days. It was 12 degrees Celsius at the coldest on Friday, whereas it was 13 degrees on Sunday in Katoomba. There were 2 more bodies going uphill and more luggage as well on Friday in normal mode, compared to more bodies and luggage going downhill from Katoomba back to the foot of the mountains, back to Sydney. So there you go, that's a comparison between eco mode and normal mode, showing that eco mode is probably more efficient than normal mode. Of course, it wasn't a perfect experiment, but nevertheless, I'll probably be using eco mode now on road trips to make sure it's a more efficient drive in our BYD Seal. Alright everyone, well thank you so much for watching. Make sure you leave your comments below. Otherwise, until the next Ludicrous feed video, happy charging.